The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
All right, breaking news right out of the gate. The Ohio Supreme Court has just decided that chicken wings advertised as boneless can have bones.
I saw this earlier and was having a chuckle over it.
Objection? On the counts of this being un-American?
Let me put it this way. If you're ordering chicken McNuggets, are you going to expect a bone in your McNuggets?
No.
Isn't that essentially what boneless wings are?
Yeah, with chicken chicken nuggets, yeah.
Okay.
That's the joke, right? Oh, yeah. They're basically chicken nuggets.
Hey, doesn't matter. I'll still get them with the hot honey.
You're definitely a boneless guy, aren't you?
I am a boneless guy.
Yeah. Welcome to the game. Mitch Fortner, Trey Coverdale. Just us two rocking it today for a couple of hours. You know what? Speaking of America, let me play a tune for you. The U.S. women got it done in their first group game, knocking off Zambia 3-0. Got that revenge for the men that lost to France 3-0. So they get 3 points, and next they'll play either, I can't remember who they play next, Germany or Australia, one of them.
I saw that Germany was
this weekend.
Yeah, I saw Germany was a +3 as well in their early win.
So America got it done. That's game one of hopefully many for the United States women. The men aren't going to make it out of group play. So.
No. Awful.
Just forget about it there.
Awful.
On today's show, guys, pro wrestling is coming to Junction City this Saturday. It is TAPW's, well, it's their biggest event of the year. Freedom Brawl 2, that'll feature a 30-man battle royal for the Braxton Cup. It'll be decided this Saturday in Junction City. More details on that coming up in hour number 2. We'll speak with Brian Blade, who's on the card, to talk about the event in hour number 2 as well. Top 100 TV themes, guys, we're in the top 10. 10 through 6 is coming up at 5:40. There's some positive changes to, unexpected changes to the format of the Big 12 basketball tournaments. We'll discuss that at 5:10. We good to go, Troy? All right. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Well, AEW was last night.
And we missed the discussion yesterday.
But it was a really good show.
Okay.
It was better than expected. Blood and Guts, spoiler alert, Team AEW with the victory. At times, it's kind of hard to watch. They do some crazy stuff, and I mean, it's blood and guts. You're going to get some blood and guts, and you got some blood and guts. Today we are joined in a makeup game by Mason Voth from K-State Online. Mason, are you going to put down the sticks for a couple of days to watch the Olympics?
Oh, for sure. I love watching the Olympics. It's one of the rare sporting events that I can actually get Bud to watch with me. More so because I'm not an expert on most of the sports that we're going to watch in the Olympics, so I can get her to watch with me. Because we're just commenting on the same thing. We have the same level of knowledge. It's more for entertainment. It's not for the sporting purpose. So we'll watch Olympics every single night. Elliot was going to get put to bed because I'm not putting up with that as I try to watch the Americans dominate the pool. So I love the Olympics. So I love watching them. We watch them. I've been watching the events that have already been going. Wild soccer game yesterday between Argentina and Morocco.
Yes.
I was watching that live, the first actual portion of the game. So I saw the goal, and then I later found out that goal didn't count and all the crazy stuff that went down with it there. So, yes, all in on the Olympics.
Yeah, the fan disruption, the road flares or whatever it was that ended up on the field. And a 2-hour delay, they got all the fans out of there. Then they had the VAR, and it turned out a goal didn't count. And Morocco takes down the victory. What is the most underrated Olympic event?
I assume you want me to go summer. You don't want my winter opinions.
You can give me whatever opinion you want to give.
Most underrated. I mean, I really like handball. That's the watching during the summer. So, like, I was watching Korea and Germany today on the women's side for handball, and that was pretty entertaining to see how that was going down. Korea kind of came back late, got a big win there. I don't understand the game. I get it. You throw the ball around, you throw it in the back of the net. It looks like something I would like to play, but there are certainly some more intricacies to it that I don't understand and that I probably need to look up the rules on to, what is a foul? How much time do you have to throw the ball into the net? Because they didn't seem to hold the ball when I was like, you should just play keep away right now. So there's a lot for me to learn there, but I do enjoy handball.
Handball's a good one. I got a couple. I got water polo and table tennis. Watching China just dominate in table tennis every year is honestly quite fascinating. Water polo seems like it's the most taxing on your cardio. And for how physical that game can be as well, seems pretty taxing on the bod. Boy, Elliot is really talking today.
Yeah, it's been she's not wanting to nap at all today either. I thought we were going to get something out of it. It's not been fruitful, so I cannot wait for her mom to get home.
Well, the U.S. women were just playing. I wouldn't want to take a nap either.
She got that brand new Slugger doll. That's what it is.
She loves that thing, and she, like, if you say, hey, where's Slugger, she'll go grab it. So
nice.
We've got that down. She's all about that. That seriously was, I think, easily my favorite night I've had as a dad. And Bud makes fun of me because she asked me, she's like, are you crying? And I was like, no, I'm not crying. But I was laughing pretty hard because the second I gave it to her, it was like hug and squeal. And so that was a pretty enjoyable moment that we had at the K Friday night.
Loved that.
One more on the Olympics. Are you interested in the new sport? There's one new sport in the Olympics this year, and it's breakdancing. Will you be watching breakdancing?
No, that is a sport that I won't watch, and that's a sport that isn't a sport. It should not be in the Olympics. That's pure insanity to have in the Olympics. I can't believe this girl today. She's something else. But, yeah, I don't get the breakdancing thing. I know that they're trying with everywhere they go to try and have sports that are important to, like, the culture and the area around there. So, like, that's why they're adding flag football to the Olympics when it comes to America. They added, I think, the last ones in Tokyo were the first ones where skateboarding was an Olympic sport. So they're trying to kind of grow the Olympics for the local fans. But breakdancing, I would be more than okay with not having to deal with that.
Well, I think skateboarding is definitely a sport. Breakdancing, you tell the people from the movie You Got Served that whenever that movie came out, I don't even know who was in it, but You Got Served. Tell them that dancing isn't a sport.
I could not tell you what kind of movie that is. Obviously, it's about breakdancing, but I've never seen it.
Well, it's about, crews, would roll up and start dancing against one another, crew versus crew, and somebody's going to get served. That was pretty much the movie. I'm sure it got at least a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, another thing we definitely have to catch up on is I know you are one of 2.2 million that bought College Football 25 for playing it 3 days early. Was it worth it?
It was absolutely worth it because I had to leave Thursday afternoon to go to Kansas City for a family reunion that we didn't get back until like Sunday night. So had that been the case, then I would not have gotten to play it at all before that. So it was easily worth it, and it's been nice to get minimal time in since we've been back.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How much have you actually played it, and what's your thoughts on it?
I've played a good amount, I would say. I haven't played a ton this week because, as you've heard throughout this interview, I've had a pretty big handful. And then, like, Bud will try and give me some time at night. She'll be like, "Oh, I know that you probably want to play. You haven't gotten to play that much." I'm like, "Yeah, I would, but I haven't felt well like throughout this week." So, because I guess I had to go get tested for strep throat yesterday, and then while I was there, I was like, "Hey, I got this spot on my thigh," and the doctor looked at it and she was like, "Oh yeah, you've got a spider bite."
Oh my God!
So I've got
week.
medication going through me right now. This is the best I've felt since Sunday. So I'll probably try and stay up and play a little bit tonight, but I'm trying to get my time in.
He's taking legit performance-enhancing drugs to play college football 25. You're on antibiotics and steroids to take care of that spider bite. We're speaking with Mason Voth and Elliot Voth from K-State Online. Don't you? Is there a first birthday coming up for her?
Yeah, a couple weeks away. We actually have pictures on Saturday for her first birthday. So we got to get 1-year-old pictures. So we've got a big planning process going for that right now.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take our break. We're with Mason Voth again from K-State Online, and when we come back, we'll get into, of course, some K-State football topics, maybe a little bit of recruiting as well, about what's going on lately with the Cats, including a non-con question that Mason actually addressed on K-State Online. That's coming up next on The Game. If this was music versus movies, I'm typically pretty good. I'm a good teammate. However, this one, I've heard it many times. I couldn't tell you, though, who the artist and song title.
It's Herbie Hancock. Rocket is the name of it. And it's immediately what I thought of when you brought up breakdancing being in the Olympics.
It's not John Hancock. It's Herbie Hancock.
Yes.
All right, we're back with Mason and Elliot Voth from K-State Online. They join us from Wichita, talking a little Cats here in our second segment. You know, a few weeks ago, Mason, you were at Big 12 Media Days in Las Vegas. Did you get anything positive out of Vegas outside the confines of Allegiant Stadium?
I don't know. Not really. I mean, yeah, no, not really. I did not have as fruitful of a time gambling as DY did, and I don't know. I don't really get the fun of Vegas because like everything that I did gambling wise while I was there, I could do in Wichita. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can bet on sports from my phone, and if I wanted to play blackjack, I could go to the Kansas Star, which is like 20 minutes away. So I don't really get what the upside of Vegas is because just a ton of people and just when there's a lot of people, they don't know how to operate like humans, and kind of a gross place, and insanely hot while we were there too. So I saw no positives in Vegas. I will not go back by my own choosing ever.
Here's a difference for you. Great pools, and when you're gambling, you get to drink for free. At Kansas Star, you're paying for it.
Well, that's what we thought until one real snooty waitress came over and took DY's drink order, and I was like, what are my options for beer? And she says, oh, well, you have to actually be playing, while I was sitting there at the blackjack table. So that was a lot of fun. And then she came back around the next time, and I was just kind of like, screw you. I didn't say it, but I thought it, and I was like, nope, I'm good. So, yeah, it was a good time down there.
If you would have just tipped her a buck or two, you would have got free drinks as well, but you got snooty back, it sounds like. So I'm calling this one a draw. I can't make an official ruling. We'll have a rematch maybe at next year's Big 12 Media Days between Mason and this waitress, and we'll see who wins maybe next year. Who was the best interview at Media Days?
We talked about this while we were down there, and I think I don't know that we were necessarily surprised by it because, I think K-State had really a good showing with everybody they brought. But Drew and I really like talking to Hadley Panzer and Austin Moore. I think that was probably the best that we had gotten Austin Moore in that setting ever. In the past, like, Austin Moore is a great dude, but I think he can give you some pretty generic answers, and like it's just standard run-of-the-mill stuff, like media talking to a player. I felt like we got a little bit more out of him than we normally did, so I thought everybody was good for the most part. and we had a good time talking to them. But those two guys probably stood out the most, mainly because I probably wasn't expecting that much out of them or didn't know what to expect. So.
Well, for K-State Online, Mason, you don't do a ton of writing. You're more on the KSO show, your YouTube channel and YouTube show. But you did a little bit of writing a few days ago, and it was a topic that I've thought about once or twice as we get closer as this season is upon us, coming up on August 31st. And you brought up the question, does K-State go 3-0 in non-conference play? There's one game that's a pretty solid debate. There's also Tulane, what K-State lost to a couple of years ago. That's going to be a different team as well. And then, of course, should take care of business at UT Martin. I know you, in the article, proposed an argument for both sides, yes or no. At the end of the day, which side did you fall on, yes or no?
I think that they go unbeaten in non-conference play this year. I would be surprised if they didn't. I think if you look at how it's gone down the last couple of seasons, it's just been kind of wacky and weird circumstances. To lose on a 61-yard field goal at Missouri last year, like, that's just tough luck and how football goes sometimes. And and in addition to that, like, you couldn't have predicted that Missouri team was going to end up, winning the Cotton Bowl and being as good as they were. And the same thing happened the year prior, which is kind of strange that, back-to-back seasons, K-State loses to the Cotton Bowl winner in the non-con, but, when they lose to Tulane like they did. And then the Arkansas State game was its own different kind of beast because of COVID and everything else that was going on with the team at the time. But this year, I just think they're going to be the better team in all three games. You get the advantage of playing two of those teams with brand new head coaches at Tulane and Arizona. So I think K-State should be able to navigate it. And I think this team is built this year to handle adversity a little bit better, not in the sense of mentally, but I think with the physical makeup and qualities of some of the guys on the field, I think it lends itself to being able to just overcome and make plays better. And Avery Johnson has a lot to do with that, with what he can do with his legs and his arm.
Yeah, I feel like if Willie Fritz did not take the Houston job and he's still in New Orleans for Tulane, I'm looking at Tulane a little bit differently. John Sumrall might be the biggest crybaby that is currently coaching in college football, unless I'm forgetting somebody. I mean, if you remember a couple of years ago or last year, coaching for Troy, I mean, he was carrying on about something all game long. Also, Tulane doesn't have Michael Pratt anymore. The Pratt, he's gone. John Sumrall just not an offensive guy. He's more of a defensive guy. So, yeah, I think things really fall into K-State's favor. I think with that trip down to – and it's week 2. It's week 2. I mean, I think you'd rather have that game in week 2 than week 3. And in Arizona, Arizona is Arizona. That's going to be a fun game, I think, no doubt about it, but you love having that game at home. This is another topic, and this was more talked about last week. I just want to ask you straight up, 3 years from now, is Florida State and Clemson going to be members of the Big 12?
Boy, I don't know about – that's a tough one. I guess the way that things go, I wouldn't be totally shocked if they were. But I think at the end of the day, the ACC isn't going to let what happened to the Pac-12 happen to them. The people in charge there don't want to go from making millions of dollars to making $0. And the other schools don't want to take the risk of being left out of the mix. Like, if you're Boston College, you should be looking around and saying there's a good chance that we would end up more like Oregon State and Washington State than we would Arizona State and Arizona, So I think that there will be an understanding between the schools and the people that work for the ACC. Like, if we have to cater to certain schools or, put in like performance bonuses for these teams, we do it in order to keep ourselves surviving. So I think at the end of the day, the ACC gets their stuff figured out. Unless Brett Yormark really is that big of a stone-cold killer and he just kills another conference on his watch, but I don't anticipate that happening.
Speaking with Mason Voth, former host of this show, he's now with K-State Online. Got a handful more here for you. Focusing again on K-State Online, I'd just love to get either your thoughts and or, what does K-State Online know right now about a couple of basketball recruits, and we're looking at high school level 2025, looking at that consensus 5-star, one of the best players in the nation in Malik Thomas. Nigel Walls has also emerged as a guy that has taken an unofficial visit. He's a 4-star, more of that David Castillo area when it comes to a recruit. Thoughts and, status right now, what does K-State Online know, if anything?
Well, I think Nigel Wall is the one that's a real actual player in terms of that might be the high school recruit that K-State takes in the coming class. That at least seems to be the one that has the most momentum. I know that Malik Thomas recently put K-State into, I think it was like his final 7 or whatever
Right.
it ends up being. I don't put as much stock into that. I think that's one of those where just based on the feel and the way that we've heard things, Malik Thomas hasn't really been a name that we've focused too much on. But I do think how this staff is operating in the recruiting space now is a little bit different. So just because we haven't heard something on it doesn't mean that, if something maybe hasn't changed, and maybe they are going to be able to be a real player with Malik Thomas. But that one to me just seems like one of those where K-State is on the list, but they're not actually in the mix for, whatever reason on both sides of it. So I wouldn't hold my breath on Malik Thomas, but if I was a K-State fan, I'd probably pay a little bit more attention to Nigel Wall.
All right, I want to touch on the Royals. Did you watch last night's game?
I did, yes.
Were the Royals screwed over in the bottom of the 9th with James MacArthur on the mound and the no strikeout, the missed call and the strikeout?
They theoretically, yes, I guess they were. And I know that the little zone on the TV is going to tell you that that's strike 3. It probably should have been strike 3 based on how balls and strikes have been called throughout the game. But it's a borderline pitch, and the real difficulty that comes in that moment is the umpire has a lot going on in front of him. I know that people probably don't want to admit that or give any credence to it, but you're jumping up with the catcher in front of you. He's immediately already standing, moving his glove, catching the ball, and getting it out of there to try and fire down. It makes it pretty complicated, and again, very borderline. And at the end of the day, I'll give some credit where it's due. Jack Johnson, who he hosts the Locked On Royals podcast, but he does some producing stuff for the ESPN station down here in Wichita. He tweeted last night, Royals probably got screwed there on that. Should have been strike him out, throw him out. But James MacArthur gave up exit velos well north of, I think, 98 miles per hour to 5 batters in the 9th inning last night. And at the end of the day, you should have been able to get the job done there. James MacArthur, again, blew it last night because that play did not give up the winning run. That's not what happened at all. There was still baseball to be played. And if you can't overcome runners at first and second with 1 out and a 1-run lead, and you end up turning it into, I think, what was 5 runs, then you probably shouldn't be closing for a Major League Baseball team. And I've said that since April. James MacArthur has been fine in a role that he is not meant to play, but James MacArthur is not a back end of the bullpen guy in Major League Baseball. But the Royals are so crap in that spot that they have no other choice right now. So, yes, the Royals got screwed last night, but they also screwed themselves.
Does Major League Baseball need to move? I'm against it, first of all, but do they need to move to the robot umpire thing?
I was really hard in my stance against it for a long time because I think so much of calling balls and strikes is also a feel thing and how the game is being dictated. But the more and more I've seen this year, I think calling balls and strikes has gotten to an all-time low in terms of how bad it feels umpires are back there. I don't know that you go to it full-time because I think that ruins the way that the game is meant to be played. But I definitely think that if you wanted to implement the challenge system, you could certainly do that and think about it a little bit more. So I don't know. I don't want to say one way or the other just because I have feelings about both. I think that the little K zone that you see lies to you sometimes on where the ball actually was in the zone and what should and shouldn't be a strike. So I don't want to call that the gospel, but I've seen a lot this year to suggest to me that the umpires behind the plate in Major League Baseball are turning into the Antichrist. So I don't know what our philosophical leaning should be anymore, but both seem like bad answers.
I can't take the human element out of the, calling the balls and strikes and making the rulings. Instant replay is great. Don't take that away or anything. But you got to have somebody in human flesh back there for a manager to argue with.
One of the things that has taken place has been that it's still the umpire calling balls and strikes, but it's appealable. And then they go to the review system.
I think that can get real messy.
It's not. It's not a video replay review like what you're used to, though. It's a aspect of they literally just go to the person running the cameras, get the call, and away we go.
All right, one more thing I want to touch on with you, Mason. I know one conversation we've had during the summer. You mentioned that your fandom for NBA isn't really what it maybe is portrayed to be sometimes, like you're not honestly a big fan of the NBA. So do you have any thoughts on the NBA now moving its media rights back to NBC and Amazon and all that, and TNT is not going to have any more, so that means no more Charles Barkley and Shaq?
I mean, my thought on it is that it's kind of disappointing and sad for, like, nostalgia's sake. Like, I grew up in a way that, like, the NBA on TNT is what I associate it with. The music, the personalities that they have on there. But that's also the same way that people probably felt when the NBA got taken from NBC the first time back in the early 2000s. So this happens all the time. That show is very influential. Inside the NBA is a big deal. It's got a lot going for it. It's going to suck to not have it on the air. But I do think it's been blown a little out of proportion with how significant it is and everything else. So I'm not going to be distraught that it's not there anymore, but it is a little bit disappointing. And I do think that, I don't know, that Turner is trying to broaden their sports realm that they're in, it seems like, but they seem to have thought that they could kind of slide under the radar and get this at a discounted price, and they didn't. So they kind of did it to themselves, and now we'll see what ends up happening after this year when the rights are actually up with all the talent they have.
All right, Mason, I know we are completely all over the place with this interview, but I appreciate you finding some time for us. I know you're a busy guy, and we'll be talking to you down the road. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you guys.
Mason Voth from K-State Online joins us. I don't know if I'm going to put down the sticks as much as he is to watch the Olympics. I'm going to watch the Olympics. I'm going to play college football 25. I will.
You've got two separate monitors, right?
Well, and also, I mean, it's in France, right? They're, 8 hours ahead of us?
I think you're right, yeah.
So, I mean, all the good stuff, it's going to be wrapped up by 6 o'clock.
Opening ceremony, in fact, is inside of 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think the opening ceremony will be done by 4. Is that 4 or 5 tomorrow?
No, it starts at 4 or 5 tomorrow.
Oh, it starts at 4 or 5.
24. You're inside of 24 hours.
Well, we're going to watch it tape delayed, though. Like,
yes, we are.
When it airs here in the U.S.
Correct.
By the way, shout out to France. They're having there's a band from France. They're called Gojira, and they're heavy metal, and they're going to perform at the opening ceremony. I think that's pretty dope.
Speaking of pretty dope, Snoop Dogg is carrying the torch.
France likes to party. What can I say? They like to have a good time.
Wants to light it up.
Freedom Broad 2, brought to you by Traditional American Pro Wrestling, is coming to Junction City on Saturday night at the Junction City Municipal Building. Tickets, $12 for an adult, $5 for 12 and under. VIP is $25. That is this Saturday in Junction City. 30-man Royal Rumble-style battle royal to determine the Braxton Cup winner. And speaking of that show, Brian Blade, who's on the card, will be joining us at 5:25. Coming up next, back to a topic we talked about with Mason about the Royals' loss last night. They lost the series to the Diamondbacks. That's coming up next. Boy, Wednesday's projected high, 105.
Listen, at least we're out of the Riley County Fair at that point.
I don't know. I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I like a fair.
Oh, yeah.
Fairs are fun. I like to look at the animals.
Oh, yeah. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying at least temperature-wise, we're out of it.
Figured to be a big funnel cake guy, something fried, you know.
Oh, geez, I haven't done a funnel cake in years.
Back on the game, Mitch Fortner and Troy Coverdale. Just us two rocking it today. We'll be the only two with you tomorrow as well. Royals last night. Oh, actually, before we mention the Royals, we actually should probably mention there was a no-hitter in baseball today.
Dylan Cease of the Padres, that franchise's second no-hitter. By the way, that leaves one franchise without a no-hitter now. The Mets have never had a no-hitter.
Never had a no-hitter?
Never have had a no-hitter. The Padres and Mets were the last two, and the Padres got their first one in 2021 rather. And so now you've seen them pick up this one from Dylan Cease today as they took care of business against the Nationals.
Well, I know you go to bed early, but I'm sure you're aware of what happened with the Royals last night at Kauffman Stadium, where they're up 4-3. It's top of the ninth inning. James McArthur is in to pitch for the Royals, looking to close the game. Gets a strikeout, infield single, and then a walk. That walk really spiraled things out of control. So what happened was full count, 3-2 pitch. The pitch from McArthur is like, I thought it was perfectly delivered. Bottom of the zone, borderline like Mason said. I agree with that. Looked to be at the knees. My strike zone said strike three. Meanwhile, the runner at first is moving. He's going to second. Salvi's, who's one of the best in baseball, catcher-wise, of course, throw guys out of second. He's been that way for a very long time. Might have got him. Don't know, but might have got him.
Sure. And
that would have ended the game. But it was called ball four. It's a walk. You got runners at first and second. A double to center field, 5-4 Diamondbacks. 2 batters later, it's a 3-run homer. Things spiraled out of control. Royals do score 2 in the bottom of the ninth, but they fall 8-6.
To go back to the point that I was making regarding ball strike review, AAA is doing it this year, where it's the home plate umpire who makes the initial call, but the batter, all they have to do is tap their helmet, and the umpire has to send it up to the booth for the quick review. Currently, all it is literally a quick review on the part of whoever is operating the 3-camera system, because they've got it aligned and set up that way. AAA is as far as they've gone with this. But they've got it aligned, and so he can automatically, or almost automatically, have the result of the pitch right there in front of him and be able to signal the umpire whether it was ball or strike, good challenge or not. So it's done in relatively 5 seconds tops. That's the potential.
Okay.
That's the potential that they could bring to the majors next year or the year after.
So what's the reception for it so far?
It's been split.
That's what I was thinking.
Players.
I was like, because I'm split. I'm like, I can see both sides. I really can. I just don't know which way I lean.
Of course, this discussion comes on the heels of me viewing a video yesterday that had me laughing because it was one of the all-time tantrums thrown when Andre Dawson got thrown out of a Cubs game by Joe West back in the 80s. And he threw every bat that he could get his hands on out of the dugout onto the field. He was so mad. And it was a strike call that was outside and low.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why the human element of the game behind the plate is so important. The baseball tantrum. We need one once in a while.
You want a good Lou Piniella rant and rave effort.
Well, I got to say, it seems like they're pretty few and far between these days.
They are. Yes.
It's just not as animated as it used to be.
I think that was what was surprising me in looking at that video. Joe West actually let Andre Dawson go a long time before he threw him out of the game.
I mean, when's the last time this isn't necessarily an umpire thing, but like, when's the last time the Royals and Yankees have had a benches clearing something or other?
Did you see the Rockies benches clearing yesterday?
During their 20-run game?
Yes.
I did not see. I heard about it.
Okay.
Reading about their record-setting day.
And specifically what was said, and which we cannot get into on air. Cal Quantrill, essentially, the batter at the plate at the end of a rally for the Red Sox got upset at Quantrill's reaction after he got the out that he needed to get out of a jam. And Quantrill yelled back at him about his, let's say, public incident
was
that
he the
included
one
criminal charges.
Yeah, he was the one that was mouthing. You could only read lips. It was something about go to the parking lot and.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
tied to.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was a gem. That's how you get the benches cleared. That's how you bring them out right there.
Yeah, baseball's one of those sports that retaliation. You have a good shot of not getting in a whole lot of trouble for it.
True.
True. If you go too far with it, you might have a fine coming or something or a suspension. More often than not, though, it's just, hey, get out of here. You come back tomorrow.
The other night, though, was a prime example of how tight the umpires, though, are watching that now. When Bobby Witt Jr. got hit with the pitch, and both benches got warned right away.
That's coming from I say upstairs. It's coming from
upstairs.
It's coming from base. It's coming from MLB.
Yeah, it is. It is. They want to all
suits.
But they would prefer to have none of it. So, you have to give them credit for the umpires having a handle on what MLB wants in that moment. But the leash is very short for that type of an incident nowadays.
The Royals, though, they get hosed out of a win last night.
Yeah, I think they did, but that's me.
Well, as since the Royals are 56-47 now, they're 5.5 back. I'm still a pretty big fan of Kansas City, so I kind of agree with you. The blue shady glass is the Royal.
Yep.
The powder blue shady glass is this time.
There you go. Yeah. And they get the opportunity to beat up on AJ's team this weekend.
Yeah, the Cubs in town for 3. Not tonight, starting tomorrow.
Yep.
Let's take our final break of the hour, and let's throw in some top 100 TV theme countdown honorable mentions to wrap up the hour next.